The mayor died in my arms on a dark highway, and before his blood dried, the town decided I was the killer. In places like this, innocence isn't proof, it's a weakness. I was driving back from my night shift on Route 19 when the rain started coming down hard enough to erase the road lines, the kind of rain that makes the world feel smaller and meaner. And I remember thinking how Ashwood, Ohio, always looked its ugliest at night, like the town was showing its real face when no one was supposed to be watching. And that's when I saw the car on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking weakly through the rain. A dark sedan I recognized immediately, because in a town this small, you recognize everything, especially the mayor's car. And for half a second, I considered driving past, because getting involved in other people's problems in Ashwood had a way of ruining lives. But then the driver's door swung open and a figure collapsed halfway onto the road, and I hit the brakes before I could talk myself out of it, pulling over, heart already pounding with that familiar warning feeling I'd learned to ignore too many times. I ran toward him, shouting, my boots splashing through puddles, and when I turned him over, my stomach dropped because it was Mayor Richard Harlan himself, eyes wide, mouth moving without sound, blood soaking through his white dress shirt like spilled ink. His hand clamped around my wrist with a strength that didn't match how close to death he was, and he tried to say something, tried hard, lips forming a word over and over, but all that came out was a wet gasp. And then his grip loosened, and his head rolled to the side. And just like that, the most powerful man in Ashwood died in my arms on the side of a dark highway. And I knew before the sirens, before the police questions, before the town decided what kind of story it wanted to believe, that I had just become part of something I wouldn't be allowed to leave alive. Because Ashwood doesn't solve crimes, it assigns blame, and it always chooses someone expendable, someone like me, Hannah Cole, 32 years old, divorced, no kids, night shift pharmacy tech, quiet, observant, and easy to point at. The kind of woman people don't really see until it's convenient. The police arrived fast, too fast. Sheriff Dalton barely looked at the body before he looked at me, his eyes already sharp with suspicion. And when he asked why my fingerprints were all over the mayor's hands and shirt, I realized the truth wasn't going to matter, not here, not tonight. I told them exactly what happened, how I found him, how he was already dying, how I never saw anyone else, but my words floated uselessly in the rain, and by sunrise my photo was already circulating on local news under the headline, "Person of Interest Questioned in Mayor's Death," which in Ashwood might as well have been a conviction. They let me go that morning, but only because they didn't need to rush. They knew the town would do half the work for them. Neighbors stopped making eye contact, co-workers whispered, my boss suggested I take some time off, and by the third day someone spray-painted "murderer" across my garage door. And the worst part wasn't the fear, it was the confusion, because Mayor Harlan hadn't been a good man. Everyone knew that. He smiled on camera and shook hands at fundraisers while quietly selling off parts of the town to developers who didn't care if families got displaced. But no one ever challenged him, because power in Ashwood wasn't loud, it was patient, it waited you out. And as the investigation dragged on, inconsistencies started bothering me. The coroner ruled the death a stabbing, singly wound, precise, professional, not the kind of attack that happens randomly on the side of a highway. And then there was the word Harlan tried to say before he died. The shape of his mouth haunted me. It wasn't help or name. It was longer, deliberate, like he needed me to understand. I replayed it over and over in my head until something clicked. He wasn't naming his killer, he was warning me. And once that thought took hold, I couldn't let it go. I started digging, quietly at first, reading old council minutes, zoning records, anything tied to Harlan's last months, and one name kept surfacing in places it shouldn't have. Caleb Ross, head of community outreach, beloved by everyone, former high school teacher turned local hero, the man who organized food drives and charity runs, the man people trusted with their kids, and the man who had recently been denied a major land deal by the mayor after a private meeting no one could account for. The deeper I looked, the uglier it got. Shell companies, fake non-profits, money flowing in circles designed to hide something rotten at the center. And then I found it, a sealed complaint from a year ago filed by a woman who vanished weeks later, accusing Ross of coercion, threats, and violence. The case dismissed quietly, the records buried, and suddenly the mayor's death made sense. But understanding the truth didn't make me safer. It painted a bigger target on my back. Because Ross wasn't just popular, he was protected. The kind of man who smiled while ruining you and slept just fine afterwards. And when I tried to bring what I found to the police, Sheriff Dalton listened politely and then warned me to stop interfering, told me grief made people imagine things. His tone making it clear that if I kept pushing, I'd be the one imagining jail bars next. That night, someone followed me home, headlights off, engine idling outside my house for 10 minutes before driving away, and the message was clear. I was being watched. Fear settled into my bones, but so did anger, because I realized Harlan hadn't grabbed my wrist to frame me. He grabbed me because I was the only witness left, the only loose end, and if I backed down now, his death would mean nothing. I recorded everything, documents, photos, voice memos, backing them up in places even I couldn't easily reach. And then I did something reckless, something desperate. I confronted Caleb Ross at a charity gala held in the high school gym. Bright lights, smiling faces, the safest place in Ashwood for a monster to hide. I told him I knew, watched his expression flicker just enough to confirm it, and he leaned in close, voice low and calm, and said, "You should have driven past that night." And in that moment, I understood how many people he had already silenced. But he made one mistake. He underestimated how much damage a woman with nothing left to lose could do, because I had already sent everything to a journalist from Columbus who owed me a favor. And when the story broke 2 days later, Ashwood erupted. Protests, arrests, audits, the kind of chaos the town had spent decades pretending it was immune to. Ross tried to flee, was caught, and when they dug deeper, they found more bodies, literal and financial, buried under years of lies. Charges stacked up faster than he could deny them. And as for me, the charges against me were dropped quietly. No apology, no announcement, just a corrected headline no one read. And when it was all over, Ashwood went back to pretending, because towns like this don't heal, they just scar over. I packed my car and left before the trial even started, passing Route 19 in daylight this time, the spot where everything changed, marked only by dried oil stains and flattened grass. And I realized something important as the town disappeared in my rearview mirror. Sometimes surviving a crime isn't about proving your innocence, it's about refusing to let their lie become your life. And that's a kind of justice they can never take back.